Biden and Sanders are in 3 different states, just 3 days ahead of the next primaries. Joining me now is NBC News campaign embed Amanda Golden in Michigan, where Senator Klobuchar will be again today campaigning for Joe Biden. Good morning to you, Amanda. What is Amy Klobuchar's motivation here? Is there any chance that she's gunning to be his VP pick?
Hey, good morning, Lindsay. So Senator Amy Klobuchar is the first major former presidential candidate to be out already campaigning on behalf of a candidate who's still in the race. She's here in Michigan for Joe Biden. And just yesterday, she was campaigning, saying that while it was hard for her to end her campaign, she can think of no better way than to continue on by joining his. So the VP speculation is certainly underway. When asked directly, she says she never engages in hypotheticals and is really just trying to hone in on Joe Biden's message. I spoke with her yesterday and actually asked a bit about state of the race and, starting off with the most diverse field in the history of the Democratic Party to now having 2 white men in their 70s at the prominence of the ticket possibility. So here, take a listen to what she had to say about that.
Every single time Kamala and the rest of us were up there on the debate stage, we broke a glass ceiling. And a lot of people knew we were all running and got excited about the race because of that. I think that having so many women up there on that stage, it was groundbreaking on its own. Literally, the first night of the debate in the primary, we doubled the number of women that had ever run for president on the first night. So that's how I look at it. And the voters decided. It was up to the voters.
So you really heard her just leaning into the historic nature of having so many female candidates, but really listening to what Joe Biden had to say and pushing forward his message for hopefully to be the nominee for president.
Well, there's a really interesting rule in Michigan that allows some people there to vote twice. Basically, residents who have cast their absentee, they can change their vote. It's known as spoiling a vote. So, Amanda, how does this work? How much confusion could it potentially cause? We've got almost 600,000 of the state's absentee ballots already returned.
So here in Michigan, which votes on Tuesday, there is this rule that you can, quote unquote, spoil a vote. So for the over 900,000 absentee ballots that have been sent out in the state, about 600,000 ballots have already been returned. And that's for voters who have sent an absentee ballot that can change their vote. And it's largely due to those who want to change from having voted for someone who previously dropped out of the race to a candidate that's still in the race. As we've seen in the last week, numerous candidates have dropped out. So this gives Michigan voters an opportunity to change their support to allow them to vote for someone who is still in the race. It's an interesting move, especially with such a volatile field and everything continuing to shake up, to allow those voters to be able to have a second say here in Michigan.
And Michigan's Office of Secretary of State says 24,000 absentee ballots are considered spoiled. That was as of yesterday at 2 p.m. They expect that number to go up. NBC's Amanda Golden, thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.